latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. You know how the argument goes. Without people breaking into not really breaking in, being invited in, because that's what open borders means, and that's what happened in the last administration. Without people being invited in and invited to stay and underwritten by taxpayers, we wouldn't have the personnel that we need to do the jobs that Americans won't do. That's why we have to turn a blind eye to people in this country illegally if they're, as many would say, not all, but many would say, if their only crime is coming to this country and staying illegally. They're otherwise law-abiding and hardworking and tax-paying. This is what you heard yesterday from Jelly Belly Pritzker in response to the suspected surge in ICE operations in Chicago. We need these workers. Otherwise, we can't make America work. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers took it a step further.
I believe that in Wisconsin, our ability to keep our undocumented people working like they are now at a really high numbers in the state of Wisconsin, if he takes that to a improper end, our economy will be gone.
What the? Oh, really? The entire Wisconsin economy will just evaporate into thin air. Well, I don't know about that. But the question, it is a legitimate one to say, well, we have declining birth rates. We have all these unfilled jobs. For example, the National Association of Manufacturers estimated this summer that there are 415,000 manufacturing jobs that have gone unfilled, and projects out that between now and 2033, that number could track to 2 million. So what are we to do? Do we just have to accept that without people coming to this country illegally, we won't be at replacement rate as a population, and we won't be growing as a population as a result? And if you're not growing, you're dying. So we have to do this for economic exigency. Someone who disputes that claim is our next guest, Adam Coleman, founder of Wrong Speak Publishing, author of The Children We Left Behind, How Western Culture Rationalizes Family Separation and Ignores the Pain of Child Neglect. The Children We Left Behind is the book. Adam Coleman is the author. He joins us now. Adam, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So you would take issue with what the good governor there of Wisconsin, Tony Evers, had to say, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 100% I would take issue with it. And I feel like now they're letting the mask slip. Before, they used to pretend that they weren't highly dependent on illegal labor. And now, states like California, now Illinois, is admitting that they're highly dependent on illegal labor. They can call it undocumented workers all they want, but we already know what that means. That means that these are people who are in this country and they're not supposed to be. They're violating our federal law, our immigration laws, to come here so they can work at a discounted rate and undercut the American worker. So I highly disagree with the idea that the only way for America to survive is with illegal labor, when they're taking jobs that Americans want to do.
Well, I mean, then how do you address those sectors that say, look, I'm happy to hire I know personally manufacturers in Chicagoland. Look, I'm happy to hire, Americans and not sort of turn a blind eye to hiring people here illegally, but I'm having a hard time finding people that, want to operate a digital lathe or want to do assembly work at a manufacturing facility and other such jobs. So, and you heard the macro number, at least that the National Association of Manufacturers put out that I just mentioned. So what do you say? And agriculture too, you hear farmers talk about the same problem in terms of the need for labor that's hard to fill. So what do you say to those numbers in those sectors?
Well, I would say this: we shouldn't look at the short term. Every time we look at the short term, we get long-term strife. We have to see this as a long-term venture because for a very long time, this went unchecked. Places like Los Angeles has turned into Little Mexico because no one did anything about it. So these are real issues that we actually have to have a long-term vision for. Not every child has to go to college. We used to have vocational schools attached to the high schools to track them into the trades, so they can come out and be part of like some sort of tradesman program or to actually be part of the trades. The problem that we have is that we all think we deserve some sort of premium white-collar job and sit in some office space getting paid six figures. And that's the lie that we've told Gen Z. And they think they're failures because it's not coming true, and they're coming out of college riddled with debt. So we actually have to change our culture as well as the laws. Not change the laws, enforce the laws. We have to change our culture and enforce the laws, essentially.
And the other piece of this, too, is maybe we have to say, well, we don't make sweeping public policy based solely on our immediate economic needs, as you said, when it otherwise undermines the rule of law in this country. That's just not how we're going to do it. I mean, if you want to talk, frankly, about like a guest worker program, which we've had a lot of experience with over the course of our country's history, well, that's one thing. But to just sort of throw up our hands and say, because we need the labor in this particular sector for this particular business in a particular moment, we're just going to turn a blind eye to the rule of law. That doesn't sound too sensible. We can make accommodations, but we can do it under the law.
100%. I am not against immigration. My father was an immigrant to this country. So I'm not against immigration. Immigration works when it makes sense. Immigration doesn't work when you turn a blind eye and you don't enforce the actual immigration laws that we have. And so the Biden administration was the absolute worst in American history as far as just allowing anything to happen, anything to take place, and they funded it, and they funded it through NGOs, and they allowed the turmoil to happen, and they didn't care what this would do to the working class American. So these are slow trickles that have been happening for decades. I'm watching communities that used to be relatively diverse or one particular demographic being completely taken over and to shift to an illegal population. I'm seeing jobs in New Jersey where we have warehouses all over our state, and they only hire within those neighborhoods that are Hispanic dominated because they know a large population of them, not everyone, but a large population of them are illegal. And they cater to the illegal worker because they can pay them minimum wage, and if one doesn't work out, they can find 10 more. So that is the mentality of the warehouse worker, the factory worker, the factory companies. These are the short-term mentalities of just going after the cheapest labor they can possibly get.
Well, right. And then how this plays out in places like New Jersey, like Illinois, that are sanctuary jurisdictions and lorded over by open borders politicians, is not only do they take the position of treating people here illegally the same as U.S. citizens residing in their state, they actually treat the people here illegally better. In point of fact, in Illinois, in the last year, we've spent a year and a half. We spent about $1.5 to $2 billion in the provision of Medicaid coverage, health care to people in this country legally residing in Illinois. That doesn't even include the sort of dollars spent on schooling their children and so forth. Meanwhile, Chicago has the highest black poverty rate of the top 15 major metropolitan areas in the country. So on the one hand, you have American citizens residing in Chicago languishing in dependency. On the other hand, you're providing all sorts of incentives, subsidizing essentially people to come here illegally because they get health care coverage, they get their children go to school for free, and they have access to work, as you say, in certain sectors.
Yes, exactly. And those particular people are taking the jobs that maybe those people who are in poverty could work in those particular warehouses or factories, but instead they're being replaced by cheaper labor who will work longer hours for less pay, who will work under the table, and they don't have to worry about employee taxes. Like, they don't have to worry about that stuff. They can just escape the law and no one cares. It's very much so systematic. And one thing that you said before you brought me on is that it's like a victimless crime. If the only crime they're violating is being here when they're not supposed to, well, that's not true. The vast majority of illegal migrants are breaking multiple paper crimes. They're either showing fake licenses, fake Social Security cards. They're using someone else's ID, whether it be a family member or some stranger's account. They're using, and they're constantly breaking the law. Multiple paper crimes that are happening. If someone is helping them out through a DMV, giving them licenses when they shouldn't be, that's another law that's being broken. There's lots and lots of laws that are being broken. So we're kind of having a social breakdown if we keep this up.
Right. I mean, actually, to your point, this high-profile case out of Florida with the illegal immigrant from India who fraudulently obtained a CDL license, does an illegal U-turn on an expressway, for goodness sakes, kills 3 people who, interestingly, turn out to be Haitian immigrants. So there again, for everybody who wants to play identitarian politics among that open borders crowd, you're making it unsafe for everybody, including other immigrants, right?
Right.
And it's more systemic than I think the Tony Everses and the Phil Murphys and the J.B. Pritzkers of the world would have you believe. Listen to this investigative report by First Coast News down in Florida, a sting that was conducted by the Florida Highway Patrol on people in this country illegally who cannot read English, illicitly obtaining licenses.
So how does FHP say this cheating scheme works?
We were shocked to see the extent that they were going to.
Brian calls it organized fraud. According to investigators, the men went in here, the DMV on Roosevelt, to take the CDL test to drive a truck. But they are rigged up with equipment to get their answers.
And you see the actual apparatus that he's wearing. He has a chest harness that actually holds the phone.
A red iPhone in the harness, and under a T-shirt, you see the hole right there? So he comes in this T-shirt with a hole cut in it.
Yes.
Now watch this. In a video we've obtained from the DMV, this man opening his shirt. Brian says it's kind of like FaceTime. The men sit in front of a computer and wiggle around.
Their body language is abnormal.
Until somebody outside in a parking lot can read the test questions on the screen in English and then tell them through this earpiece in their language. Employees at the DMV got suspicious.
Most people don't start to disrobe when they take a DL test.
They're unbuttoning their shirts.
They are, indeed.
So the 5 men arrested so far, that's just the tip of the iceberg?
It is.
And this is happening all over the country. Maybe from Jacksonville we can make a difference.
It's like when Norm helped Sam Malone play that chess game against Robin Colcord from the back office with an earpiece, except it's a little bit more serious when it's fraudulent CDL licenses.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that report is one of many that are starting to pop up. Sometimes out of a tragedy, you find out all different types of information, how bad things really are. And now we're starting to find out reports that actually getting driver's license and CDLs in general, they're being helped out by people who are sympathetic in the DMV, and they're getting paid under the table to do so. In some cases where it's an entire office is in on the play. So there are a lot of illegal things that are going on, and people are being very brazen about it because there was no enforcement. And I can tell you just personally, I've been in many of these warehouses in New Jersey where they are hiring illegal workers. And I could tell you companies that you've heard of that are doing this, probably still to this day. And one thing I'll tell you, no one's ever worried about ICE coming through the door.
Interesting, for all the demagoguing of ICE that's going on by some of those same politicians I just mentioned and so many others. And yet, well, because of course, I mean, they've got enough on their plate to try to apprehend 500,000 people in this country who are either convicted felons or accused of a serious crime who pose public safety threats just from the previous 4 years. So for all the talk about they're going to raid this business and they're going to raid that business, the reality is that both employers and a lot of these illegal immigrants know that it's unlikely that they're in much jeopardy. They may have some one-offs. They have had some one-offs, but in terms of how expansive the practice is versus the resources devoted to enforcement, I mean, it's not even a close call, right? So you would need to do something like impose E-Verify as a mandate as opposed to an option to begin to rein some of this in, I suppose.
I mean, E-Verify, and I've seen where this happens right now where it's optional.
Yeah.
They use third-party organizations and companies to hire people as quote-unquote contractors. But even E-Verify can't catch them all. If I'm using my cousin's ID and we look similar, and on top of that, the employer doesn't really care either way as long as it checks out fine, then I can still get hired. If I'm stealing someone's ID, that E-Verify can't catch them all. And on top of that, we're also hoping that the employer sees that E-Verify says this person's illegal and they actually don't hire that person. So
it's part enforcement and part culture change.
Yeah. Yes. I think if we're going to have a massive shift in hiring illegal workers, unfortunately, you got to go after businesses. You got to impose the strongest fine that you can. If Trump signed an executive order or passed some sort of bill saying that if you hire illegal workers and there's a massive penalty, you now disincentivize actually breaking the law. And no one's going to take that risk. Your business goes under if you hire illegal workers. There's no second shot at this. That's it. You're done. You have to close up shop. No one's going to take that risk.
Adam Coleman, founder of Wrong Speak Publishing, author of The Children We Left Behind, How Western Culture Rationalizes Family Separation and Ignores the Pain of Child Neglect. Adam Coleman, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Adam Coleman joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, doctors Economos, Gave Alice, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidiscipline practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located